Welcome back, everyone. Today we've got George, known as the Identity Architect. He is performance coach with over 13 years in the room with people most of us only see on stage. His client list is like a highlight reel: agency owners, sales leaders, UFC grappling coach, ex-Navy SEAL, turned business owners, CMOs, copy chiefs, and others. So people who look like they've got it figured out on paper, but George doesn't do motivation. He doesn't do affirmations. He works at the intersection of nervous system science and high level execution. His framework is called capacity, meaning, strategy. And the short version is this: if your body's stuck in survival mode, no amount of strategy saves you. George finds the invisible thing, pulling the handbrake, and removes it. He's also a jiu-jitsu purple belt, which, as you'll hear, isn't a hobby. It's part of how he thinks about everything. George, we're skipping the pleasantries and going straight for the boom submission. I want to pick your brain for every practical tip we can give the marketers, closers, consultants, business owners listening today. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, my friend. It's been a long time, so it's good to be able to catch up.
Long time no see, indeed. Always a pleasure. Where are you calling from today?
I'm back in Melbourne at the moment, visiting family. Got some family matters going on, so I've been here for a little while. Um, yeah, back home.
Nice, nice. So, George, you said with people whose income is directly tied to how they show up, not in a woo-woo way, in a very real, measurable way. A closer misses free calls and something shifts, a marketer watches ROAS drop and their whole decision-making changes. Not because they forgot how they do the job, but something else takes over. Like from where you sit, working with the body, the identity, the nervous system, what's actually happening in that moment?
Yeah, what I've come to understand over this long period of time, just refining the work, is that there are these sort of survival patterns that we get stuck in, and they really shape our state and they shape how we behave. And once we are able to understand that and actually access those survival patterns and work with them, we can actually shift what's going on very quickly out of the nervous system. Because in the past, when I had done a lot of this work, it was really from a mental perspective. It was a lot of reframing and shifting beliefs internally, but there were always that once or a while where clients really weren't shifting. And the big game changer there was it didn't matter what they did with the mind stuff, because what was trapped and what was keeping them from updating that was the stuff that was going on in the bodies.
Hmm. And what's the thing most high performers completely miss when the pressure hits?
That they're getting hijacked by the way that they normally operate, because a lot of high performers are used to operating with the accelerator full on. They think that by having the accelerator full on, running at 100,000 miles, going as fast as they can, thinking as fast as they can, moving as fast as they can, that that's somehow an indication of drive, motivation, of performance itself, when in actual fact, all it's really doing is it's like driving your car and having the revs go to 5,000 and thinking that how is the engine going to sustain itself in the long run if you're always running the car at 5,000, right? So like a lot of performance comes down to not only your ability to take action, but where that action is coming from within yourself.
Great point. And if you were standing in a room full of copywriters, media buyers, consultants right now, people who are good at what they do, but keep hitting the same ceiling, what would you tell them first?
I'd say stop looking at strategy. Strategy is a hiding spot, right? Like they go to strategy because that's where they're used to going. It's what's helped them get to where they are today. But I'm sure you've heard this, I've heard this. What got you to here isn't going to get you to where you're going next. So if you kind of try to keep working on the strategy side, but you keep bumping into the same block, the same ceiling, you've got to start to ask yourself, like, what am I doing wrong here? And it's usually not something you can read about. It's not something you can just be motivated out of. It's some pattern that's probably below your awareness that's actually pulling at the strings of how you're not only acting, but the results that you're getting.
Hmm. Okay. And you also mentioned your four stress archetypes: Ghost, Peacemaker, Lone Wolf, and the Carrier, right?
Yeah, man. So it's really interesting because if you look at it, there's kind of these archetypes that people fall into when you see them falling into these stress patterns. And you have like the lone wolf, who's that person that's gonna not ask for any help from anybody. That they don't want support, they don't want coaching, they don't want anything. They do it all on their own. And then you have obviously the other types as well. The ghost, who's usually the person who starts procrastinating. They're not replying to the messages anymore. They're sort of just disappeared and gone AWOL. And those patterns in themselves are reflective of whatever stress is going on at the moment. Because what happens and what people don't really appreciate and understand is you're always sort of in a tug of war with yourself between what your system needs, your internal needs. So these are the psychological needs of your system to maintain equilibrium, and the external demands put on you. So the external demands would be hitting your revenue numbers, getting the clothes, making money, doing all these things. These are external demands that they are affected by your skills, your capabilities, your attitude, this kind of thing. But you're always sort of in a tug of war with yourself between, hey, how do I meet these external demands whilst also taking care of my internal needs? And that's where all the friction and the stress comes from, not knowing how to balance those two sides of the equation.
Nice. And what about the Peacemaker? How does that look like?
The peacemaker is the one that basically tries to harmonize with everybody else. They want everyone to be happy. So they don't really hold opinions. They tend to be more people pleasing. They tend to try and smooth things over to make sure that everybody's happy and everything's okay. And they'll do that at their expense of themselves in many cases. Because what they do is they prioritize making sure everyone's in agreement versus what's actually best for moving things forward or getting to where they're going. They're more concerned about the people. And the reason for this, the people, the peacemaker in particular, they're prioritizing their own internal needs over the external demands. So it's very much I need to make sure that I feel comfortable. And if feeling comfortable means putting the external demands on hold right now, that's what I'm going to do. Whereas the antithesis of that, the opposite of that, is the lone wolf. The lone wolf says the external demands are more important, and my internal needs can piss off. They can just wait. So it's really interesting because you see the the extreme that both of those things how they play out.
Nice. What about the Carrier?
The carrier is the one that's just they're going to they're gonna like carry it with them. They're going to take it on themselves. They're going to take on as too much. They're going to burn themselves out. They're not going to set boundaries. They're not going to involve other people because they're going to feel like they have to do it themselves, that it's shameful to ask for any support, any help. And yeah, so it's interesting that these patterns play out like they do because they also you can be affected by multiple patterns in different areas. So
Okay.
it's not like it's necessarily just one pattern to one person. You might be the carrier in one situation, you might be the ghost in another. You probably will have a primary and a secondary pattern that mostly plays out in the way that you respond to things.
Uh-huh. Great. And how often do people change? For example, do you see it often if they're having one personality trait? After some time, months, years, can they change that easily or?
Yeah, well, it's not about personality, it's about stress response. It's about understanding how to manage the demands outwardly and the internal needs. And so, like, if people do identity work, if they work on themselves, if they get better at shifting how they see themselves, they get more experience and build confidence through that experience. All of these things can kind of shape what happens, right? So you can absolutely shift which patterns show up and how you sort of play out these patterns. But it really comes down to whether or not there's, at this moment in time, do you need to focus more on your capabilities and skills because that's where maybe you're lagging? Or is it more of an internal thing where it's your beliefs, it's other subconscious issues that are going on? Maybe it's stuff about wanting perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, things like this, that you need to address those things before you're going to see a shift in the way those patterns play out.
Yeah, interesting take. And let's talk about the scarcity because every person listening has felt it. The month is slow, the pipeline is dry, and suddenly you're making decision from a totally different place. So most people would say that's a mindset problem. Are you saying it's not, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm saying that the reason it shows up as a mindset problem is because the system feels under threat. Like fundamentally, a threat is anything that potentially is going to take from you resources. That's what makes it threatening, you know? So to have a scarcity mindset means that your system is already operating from a place of threat. And if you're operating from a place of threat, then you're in a survival mode. And if you're in a survival mode, you, it's really interesting because even from a physiological standpoint, you can you can know that you're in a survival mode because you will get tunnel vision. Your vision will become less peripheral. You won't be able to see as wide. You'll see more in front of you. Why that's important is because when you're not in survival mode, even in terms of your thinking widens. You see more opportunities. You're more expansive in the way you think. You don't have tunnel vision. So if you have that scarcity mindset, that tends to reflect this, that your system feels under threat. So the question is, well, why is it under threat? And in particular, understanding that a threat is a perception. It's not a real thing. It doesn't have to be real. It's just that for some reason, the system is going, no, I can't do that, you know? And like the classic example of that is a guy going up to a girl. Yeah, any guy will tell you she's a little girl. She weighs less than me. She's like 5'4", whatever. It's not gonna it's not gonna be a big deal if I go up and say something and she rejects me. But in the moment when they try to go up and talk to the girl, that's a different story. Something overcomes them, right? It's an internal feeling. It's something happening in the body, and that hijacks everything. So it doesn't matter that you know better. It doesn't matter that you can reason the situation. Something internally perceives that situation as a threat and is stopping you from being able to treat it like the way that you know. You know because you've probably done it many times before. Like it really isn't that bad. Nothing really bad happens. And I'm sure it's the same thing that a lot of sales folk experience too, because one of the things that I've seen a lot is many guys get really good at like objection handling and the process of sales, but where they struggle, what holds them back a lot of the time is the rebound between rejections, getting back on the dials, because there's a there's a social and personal um, quality or meaning attached to that stuff. So, like a lot of guys in sales, where they slip up, isn't that they don't know how to handle the objections or that they don't know the sales script. It's the bounce back from the rejections. You just did 5 dials and everyone said no, and now you're like, I don't want to pick up the phone again. And it's in that period there where the guys that are really good are getting better and are making more money versus the actual experience itself. It's not about objection handling and stuff. That's just usually the excuse. Because the truth is, somebody who gets back on the phones and dials more is probably going to have more opportunities to close.
And a lot of guys in this space talk about, flow state. You mentioned tunnel vision also before, like morning routines, cold plunges, affirmations, journaling, all of it. Where do you land on that?
You've got to know whether it's a crutch or whether it's actually helping you. Like, I don't do any of that stuff. I do cold plunges to help me with jujitsu and stuff like that, but I don't do them to like help me take on the day or any of that. I don't journal. I don't meditate. I don't do affirmations or anything. Like, the reality is this: the thing that makes you better at sales is doing more sales. And the thing that you get rewarded for in business, in particular, is exposure and risk. And everything that you do that is an avoidance of that exposure and risk is something that you're using to bullshit yourself from doing what you need to be better at whatever it is that you want to do. Like, the reality is, the people who win in the online space are the ones who are willing to get embarrassed. Not even the online space, just in business in general. Are you willing to get embarrassed? Are you willing to get rejected? Are you willing to go out there and outreach 500 people who know nothing about you and who maybe will slam doors in your face, metaphorically, these days? But, you know, I really do think that if you want to be good at business, there's a couple of things that you can do that seem to be force multipliers and make you far more likely to be successful. And one of them would be door-to-door selling. If you
Mm-hmm.
can sell door to door, you're going to be able to sell in any other area, you know?
Thick skin, yeah. What they
Well,
say, everything you want is another side of fear, right?
yeah, but this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just about developing thick skin, because I don't think that that's always what works. And this is where the nervous system work is really interesting, because when you understand how to work with the nervous system, you don't develop thick skin. What you develop is the ability to stay in the tension more without being overwhelmed by it and without shutting down. Okay? And using the metaphor of going up to a girl, if you think about it, there's two reasons why guys generally will be afraid to go talk to a girl. Okay? They'll say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to her. Right? So they're afraid of shutting down, or I'm going to get rejected. She's not going to like me. She's out of my league, which is an overwhelmed state. Guys are not afraid of guys are not afraid of approaching girls. What they're afraid of is that they're going to shut down completely when they go up to her. They're going to freeze up and they're not going to get words out, and they're going to embarrass themselves and make them look like a fool. Or that they're going to get rejected and they're not going to be able to handle the rejection. And so it's not about thick skin, because thick skin will disconnect you from the experience. It's about holding more of the tension without freezing up or being overwhelmed. That's how I look at it.
And now makes more sense. Now let's talk about inputs. You've been doing this for, it's been a minute, over 13 years, nearly 20 years of your own personal development. That's a lot of reading, a lot of listening, a lot of sitting with ideas that most people never touch. So I want to know, what shaped you? I don't want a generic list, I want the stuff that actually change how you work with people, those needle moving activities.
I mean, for me, there was just something in me that couldn't accept anything less than finding out what was wrong with me and why I hated myself and why I didn't like myself and why I wasn't able to take the massive amounts of action that I saw so many other people doing around me. So when I was growing up, particularly in my teen years, I would look around and everyone was having success, whether it was with women or the gym or whatever, and I would try as hard as I could to get those same results, and I would always fail. And I didn't know what the gap was. So that drove me to want to understand human performance. It drove me to want to understand human behavior. And there was always that relentless journey to understand myself. So that was like the kickoff point. And I was very fortunate because even before I got involved in any of this, I had some pretty good social skills. So I wasn't afraid to ask for help. And I ended up finding the right mentor and basically just pestering them, bugging them until they told me that they would mentor me. I just kept asking them. I'm like, you're going to mentor me. You've got to mentor me. You've got to mentor me. And funnily enough, I got the call from them about the mentoring the first time I arrived to Belgrade. I just landed in Belgrade. I was staying at a hostel near the old train station. And I remember I was meant to do a coaching call with my mentor, and we're on the Zoom on the coaching call. Actually, back then it was Skype. And yeah, he's like, I'm going to mentor you. And that carried on for like 5 years. Yeah. So that was a big part of it. The progression from there was there's a lot of things I could talk about there. There's definitely different little milestones and points through that chronology that kind of landed me where I am today.
Okay, and you're based now in Melbourne, train jiu-jitsu, got deep ties in Bangkok. You're not the guy hopping between Bali and Lisbon every 6 weeks with a carry-on and an ocean board. So I want to ask you this, you know, for people listening who work online mainly and think freedom means being everywhere, what are they getting wrong?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I would have made a lot more progress if I didn't travel as much. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because in some ways it helped me grow a lot as a person, but you're also putting a lot of friction between being able to be consistent with just the boring repetitive stuff. And if you really look at the people who do the best, they're just doing the boring repetitive stuff more than everybody else. Like, so you've got to find the balance between those two things. And you've got to ask yourself, realistically, it will take you 5 to 10 years to create anything of value, of like creating a personal brand of value, building your career, building your business. It's going to take you about 5 to 10 years. Anything below that is kind of luck. And that's only from what I see, that's only going to get more difficult. It's not going to get easier. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So if you do want to do the travel thing, by all means do it. I've done 9 years of it. I've gone to 40 countries, some of those countries 5 times. It's a great thing. But the thing it will do is it will slow down your progress. It will slow down how fast you can grow. It will slow down how big you can get. And even today, I find myself wanting to stay in places much longer because you do need a bit of consistent routine. It is not easy working from cafes and stuff. It isn't as motivating to not have a dedicated space to work from. There's a reason people go to offices and stuff. There's a association that you get from being in your office. Like one of the biggest mistakes I made in the past was having my bedroom and my office be the one thing because your brain doesn't it doesn't separate those things. It doesn't make the separation of those things. It can affect your sleep, but it can also affect how you perform because you're not creating an environment for performance. You're sort of like dipping your toe in, but not completely. And you can absolutely work from cafes and stuff, and that can be great. But the most important thing is that you can be consistent.
Yeah, there's
If
not
you
a
need to always pick up your laptop, it's
yeah.
hard, man. It's really hard, and it costs you. It costs you in energy. It costs you in the drop in performance. There's a lot of costs. They're little costs. They feel like they're just little tiny things, but they accumulate. They add up.
100%. It sounds cool online to always travel, but yeah, 100% agree. Boring things make people really scale and be in that flow. And what does a high performer actually need from their environment to do their best work? What would you say?
Like in my experience, the thing they need to do their best work is to know their own rhythms, patterns, know what works for them. Because what I see with a lot of high performers is they will always compare themselves to how someone else works. And we're just different. We're just different. We're just different people. And you need to know what your different is. You need to find what your leverage points are. Because you might be somebody who gets up 5 in the morning and does a lot more work because it's peaceful and there are no other distractions. That's great. I'll say this. One of the most important skills is the same skill you need to get good at jiu-jitsu. It's the same skill, which is you need to be self-directed. I can tell you from personal experience, you go to somewhere like Bali, beautiful place, beautiful people everywhere, great weather, but so few people are doing any real work because the environment, it pulls on you to go to the beach, go get your tan, go to a gym session, go talk to girls, whatever it is, go eat, whatever. It pulls you. And if you don't have that self accountability, if you're not good at being able to drive yourself to do the thing you need to do, you will know straight away if you get into any kind of environment where there's lots of temptation. So like it's the same with jiu-jitsu in the sense of I'm always trying to put myself in bad positions on my terms because I don't know how many months it will be until the coach makes what I need to learn and improve on a priority in class. So if I wait for him to make it a priority, I could be waiting 3 months and my turtle never gets better.
Makes sense.
That's one of the most important things. The other important thing is, and this is a huge thing, and I think so many people overlook this, look at the patterns of what people are doing, not what they're saying. Like, look at the people you look up to, look at all these experts, look at them all, but don't look at what they're selling and don't look at what they say, look at what they do. And the third thing, and I really think this is probably the most powerful thing you can do, is find a mentor, even if you have to like be a slave to them for a good year or two and like do everything that they require of you, because what you'll learn from that experience will accelerate how quickly you grow.
That's the biggest tip everyone says. It really helped them. I can also agree with that one. And also, I know you have a very interesting take on networking, how to do it without being annoying. How do you do that? Because you always work with very high performing people.
Yeah, I think that comes from my upbringing. My house, my parents always had guests over, cousins, family, neighbors, and they treated everyone the same. Then the one rule that I try to maintain when I'm connecting with anybody is they're just another person. And it's such an important rule because what we tend to do and get into patterns of is finding reasons why the person is not somebody like us. He's doing 8 figures. He works with Alex Hormozy. He'll never talk to me. And at the end of the day, people are just people, man. You know? And most of the connecting really just comes down to genuinely having a curiosity about the person, not wanting to take advantage of them for any reason, just genuinely being curious and not treating them like they're above you or below you or something, like, because when you do that, you pedestalize them. And when you pedestalize people, for them it's really weird. It's a weird thing because you put yourself in a position where it makes it seem strange the way that you're behaving towards them. So you don't want to do that. And like you'll be surprised the doors that open for you. Like recently I did a whole bunch of outreach and I got lots of no's, whatever. And then I think it was last Sunday, I was on a call with a guy, Canadian guy who runs a renewable energy company. He's the CEO, okay? He's the CEO of a renewable energy company, knows nothing about me, has 1.2 billion in contracts, and he's made time out of his Sunday to get on a call with me. And even I was surprised by that. And I felt that little thing of like, oh, this guy, like, you know. But the first thing he did when we got on that call is like, you know, appreciate that you're reaching out. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I really value what you do, what you do as a coach and all that stuff. Like I think that's some amazing stuff. And he was super interested in what I had to say, and he was being real with me as a human. He really was. And I think your ability to do that with people and your ability to do that first allows people to meet you there. So, like, don't try to get things from people. Be curious about them. Think, how are we like each other, not how are we not like each other. And make an effort. Make an effort not only online, even offline, to actually engage with other people. Not just when you need something or want something, but like make it a part of who you are. You know, because I see a lot of outreach stuff and social media stuff about engaging and how to do it right and all this crap. And the truth is, a lot of the networking techniques and all that stuff is stuff people had to come up with because they just don't have basic social skills. You just need basic social skills. And the most basic social skill that you have available to you is be curious. Provide value, be curious, and think like, how is this person like me? How are we the same? If you do those three things and you make it a habit and you do it with the 60-year-old grandma, the hot girl, the guy, you know, paying at the cafe, if you do it with everybody and you just treat people like people, you're going to start to see that they are people. Everything else is just mirrors, smoke and mirrors. Because even when I first started doing this stuff, even when I was only 4 or 5 years into it, I was in Thailand. I was in Phuket doing Muay Thai and wrestling. That's where I met the UFC grappling coach. He was the wrestling coach up that way. And I met him. I met a whole bunch of people. And the reason I was able to do that is because I just treated them like humans. You know?
Especially in today's day and age, that human-to-human connection is so refreshing to see.
It's so important, man. It's so important. And the bar is set so low. It's so low.
People pitching in the first call DM, yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy how low the bar is, and all you need is some basic social skills, and you'll go a lot further than you realize.
Yeah, and George, let's get personal for a minute. You know, you're now 37. You've been doing your own development work for nearly 20 years now. That means you started this journey as a teenager. So when I ask you to talk to your younger self, you got a lot of runway to look back on. If you could sit that down with a, let's say, 28-year-old George, maybe he's a few years into coaching, he's training, he's deep in the work, but hasn't yet built what you build now, obviously. What does that conversation sound like? What would you tell him that he wouldn't want to hear?
I wish it was something profound and different and unique, but it really is just like give yourself more permission to take risks and stop looking for easy wins. Stop looking for easy wins and easy fixes, because even back then at 28, I didn't stick to a path long enough for it to pay off. And it was always like, I need to change my positioning. I need to pivot. I need to change my message. I need to change my branding. I need to check a different platform. I need to do this. I need to do that. And the reality is, that's the longest path you can take. It's the longest path. The good that came out of not doing that was that I've been coaching for so long that I'm really good at what I do now. But I let some of like developing the marketing, sales skills and stuff like that slip by in the process. So I had to make up for that the last few years, which I've done. But I would be so much further ahead, career-wise, income-wise, all these things, if I just stuck to a path. If I just stuck to the boring stuff, if I just kept going with the path, and again, it comes back to this thing of like temptations. One of the things about being involved in the online marketing world, you're exposed to so many more marketing messages than normal people are. And so much direct marketing, which is always about triggering fears, the transformation, buy this, buy that, here's a prompt, here's a PDF, here's this, here's that, here's this. Not only are you exposed to the typical marketing, whatever it is, hundreds of thousands of marketing messages per day, just subconsciously and throughout your day and everything. But if you're in the online space, you're getting double that amount of marketing hitting you.
At least.
And it does pierce its way in little ways, and it does redirect you, and it makes you think, if I get this guy's course, this is going to be the answer. If I get that, this is finally this. And a lot of the times, all you really need to do is you need to just keep going with the same boring stuff. And business is not that hard. Like, people complicate things. If you know the offer works, you need to get it in front of people. And if you can get it in front of people, you need to sell it to them. It's not.
Yeah.
And then if you want to add one more layer to that, is and if you sell it to people, make sure that they get what they bought.
Business 101. And last one, George. We're in the age of AI. Everyone in our world is talking about it. Copywriters are wondering if they're obsolete. Marketers are automating everything they can, even more. And closers are watching AI book calls and handle objections, analyze calls. You sit in a very different chair. You're in the room when someone's body starts shaking because the story they've been running for 30 years just became visible. So I have to ask, in a world where everything is getting automated, where does what you do actually sit?
If AI could do what I do, it would be consciousness. And if it's consciousness, there's no point for humans anymore. Because what I do is about the nervous system, and it's about human connection. And AI it can spot patterns, it can give you perspective, it can give you insight. But the truth is, we already get insight. You already get people telling you all kinds of brilliant ideas about what you need to do. Alex Hormozi puts out 10,000 pieces of content a week, and it's all quite good. And you're already getting all of that information, all of that knowledge, all of those perspectives. It doesn't, and in a lot of the cases, it's not changing anything, right? Like, I could tell you, I could say to you, like, it doesn't matter that she's attractive. Like, at the end of the day, she can't hurt you. But if you're scared of going up to girls, you're going to be scared of going up to girls. Like, all the reframes and all the watching of videos and all this stuff isn't going to change that. And it's the same in business, and it's the same anywhere else. So I'm very fortunate, because the work that I do is a very human thing. It takes human to human engagement. And at the point where AI can do that, if anything, I'm actually looking forward to. I think that the result of AI will be that more people will see the value and the need for what I do. Because I don't think AI will. I suspect AI is going to create a lot more anxiety, a lot more insecurity, and a lot more work. We think it's reducing work, but I think we're going to find that there's going to be more work. There's not going to be less work. And the work is going to be coming in the form of checking the work of the AI, making adjustments. And then there's on another side of that we have to be concerned about, which is people are getting dumber, dude. They're getting dumber because they're relying on these things. So, like, what's actually going to become really valuable is knowing why copywriting works, is knowing why sales works, is knowing these things. But it's not going to be because of the skill side of it. Skills are something that everyone has access to, and everyone can ask the AI and it can tell them and da 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 da. The thing that's going to become so important as AI becomes more and more important is going to be good judgment, good taste.
I agree.
And you can only have good judgment and good taste from experience. If you don't have experience, you can't have good judgment and good taste.
That's true. And what would you recommend some of the books, materials, podcasts for people watching? What really helped you along the way?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I don't really delve into self-development anymore. I haven't for a long time, and I tend to go in other directions. Um, but one book I will absolutely recommend is called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. That's a brilliant book. Um, that's about a form of therapy work, a modality of therapy called internal family systems therapy. And it's a really great book because what it teaches you that your mind is not one thing. It's made up of different parts. And parts can have different intentions, they can have different needs, different wants, different beliefs. And we all experience this, like a part of me wants to do this, but a part of me wants to do this. So we get into these internal conflicts with ourselves, and it's like different parts of us are fighting with each other. So I highly recommend that book. It will help you think about your psychology in ways that you never thought about before. It's a brilliant book. Another book would be, what's it called? There's a great business book that I read a long time ago. It's a little bit unique. It's called Thick Face, Black Heart. And it's all about, it's about the way that business is done in Southeast Asia versus in the West. And it's sort of really interesting because there's a little bit more of a ruthlessness and a darkness that is expected in business more in the East than in the West. So, like, I highly recommend that book. It's a brilliant book. And as far as podcasts go, I don't really watch podcasts too frequently, but I do enjoy. There's a great podcast with Chris Williamson and Joe Hudson that came out recently. Highly recommend checking that one out. It's really good. It's really good. And yeah, I tend to find that these days I'm reading things that are outside of the scope of what I do. So they tend to be things more broad. Um, and I sort of take more appreciation in stuff like autobiographies and stuff where you read it and you get to like step into the shoes of somebody brilliant, like a Richard Branson or a Warren Buffett or a Charlie Munger or something. So I think like I would say less self-development books and more autobiographies and stuff like that. Like immerse yourself in the way these people think and how they approach things and the kind of journeys they went on and stuff like that, because that will give you a lot better understanding than a lot of the self-development stuff that's out there.
Yeah, great take. Where can people find you? Where are you most active nowadays? Which platforms?
I'm on LinkedIn, actually. I'm getting way more into LinkedIn right now because I'm working with a lot more founders and people like that, and Facebook and a little bit of Instagram too. But
Drop the
that's
links in
just sort
the
of
bio.
starting to take off. Yep, yep, sure.
Perfect, perfect.
But yeah, I'm enjoying LinkedIn at the moment. Where are you? I lost you for a second. Where are you?
I'm here, I'm here.
There we go.
Nice. Anything else you want to share with the audience for today?
Yeah, I mean, the barrier to entry with business is getting smaller. That means there's more competition. That means there's going to be more people doing the things that you do. That means there's both way more opportunity, but also way more threat. And like, that has always happened. That has happened in every cycle of business throughout time. There's always disruption, there's always change, there's always the need to adapt and grow. Whether it was from, the railroads to the planes, or it was even the internet boom back in the 90s. The more that you can understand the history of these things and how the economy works and how just the cycles that exist, the less you should be afraid of what's coming next. Because you need to be prepared for the ups and downs of business. Being in business is not a smooth ride. You're going to go through ups and downs and all kinds of things. You need to be prepared for that. Because worrying about whether AI is going to take your job or whether copywriting's become obsolete and all this stuff, it doesn't matter. Because tomorrow there could be another COVID and you would still need to adapt. And so like the one thing you need to learn if you're going to be in this long enough is it's about who you become and it's about the skills that you develop that you can carry over as the environment changes. If you can't do that, you might get a shortfall win. You might get on crypto at the right time, or you might get into sales and make some money, but you won't last in the game because the environment is consistently changing. And even with what I do, and even with the nature of what I know, I'm always learning new stuff. I'm learning about the new LLMs. I'm learning about vibe coding. I'm learning about all kinds of things because I don't know what's coming next. And you've got to constantly be a learner and an experiencer and somebody willing to do the difficult things like cold outreach, like pitching, like sales. These things will never not be needed.
I agree once again. Brother, thank you so much for your time today. Everyone,
My absolute pleasure.
you can check all the links from George in the description. And until next time, keep up the great work. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.